disruptive.
America that I fought for.
Weird thing to happen. Hello, one and all. Welcome to this edition of Kitz Corner. It's been a fantastic day so far. You may have heard there was catastrophic damage in Dubai. There was a lot of flooding that occurred just in a short time span, and people are very skeptical and questioning and raising their eyebrows on how this kind of hot desert city was able to have this much rain damage in a short period of time. And there's been talks about exposing some scientific modifications with the weather system, how there's been geoengineering when it comes to the natural order, which is one of the main reasons why all of a sudden Dubai, one of the desert cities in the Middle East, had become this, has become known for, the flooding that occurred recently. So there's a lot to be said about this. And here's a bit of video to show you just how quickly this went. And I'm not sure. I think there's audio that plays under copyright. But here's just a short period of Dubai, this desert city that all of a sudden just got this huge amount of rainstorm in a short period of time. Just look at this. You can see like clouds forming in, coming in, getting very dark, very, very much so. See the rain kind of pouring in from the far side. Coming in, coming in, coming in, coming in. And then it just pours. Pours. Look at that. You can't even see the roads at this point. So that was done in 24 hours, I do believe. That was the footage. Or Dubai's historic floods just in 30 seconds. So people are very curious about this. That if this is the result of climate change, how was it able to rain that quickly, so fast, and just out of nowhere? How exactly is that possible if this was a result of climate change? Well, it turns out, and an article from CBS News from 2021 even pointed this out, that apparently the UAE, which Dubai is a part of, is known for what they call cloud seeding, which is a weather modification. It's geoengineering of the atmosphere to create mass rainfall in these desert cities. And CBS News points out it's so hot in Dubai that the government is artificially creating rainstorms. And they say with temperatures in Dubai regularly surpassing 115 degrees Fahrenheit, the government has decided to take control of the scorching weather. Scientists in the United Arab Emirates are making it rain artificially using electrical charges from drones to manipulate the weather and force rainfall across the desert nation. Meteorological officials released video footage this week showing a downpour over Ras Al Khaimah, as well as several other regions. The new method of cloud seeding shows promise to help mitigate drought conditions worldwide without as many environmental concerns as previous methods involved salt flares. Annually, the United Arab Emirates receives about 4 inches of rain per year. The government is hoping that the regularly zapping clouds to generate rain will help to alleviate some of those arid nations' annual heat waves. According to research from the University of Reading in the UK, scientists created the storms using drones, which hit clouds with electricity, creating large raindrops. The larger raindrops are essentially in the hot country, where smaller droplets often evaporate before ever hitting the ground. It's moving to think that the rainfall technology I saw today, which is still being developed, may someday support countries in water-scarce environments like the UAE. Mansour Abdullah, ambassador of the UAE to the UK, said during a visit to the University of Reading in May, where he was shown demonstrations of the new technology. So this kind of idea kind of relates to the theory that went around to people saying that there was modification with the weather, how aerosols are being sprayed into the atmosphere, that coming from airplanes. Um, it kind of all relates to each other. And it kind of doesn't seem far fetched the more you read into the scientific manipulations of weather systems, that they're trying to sell this to you as some sort of good and beneficial, saying that, weather, rain scarce areas in the desert need this. They need some sort of rainfall so that, they're able to survive and maintain. Well, as you just saw there with that 30-second clip there, there's a lot of blowback. There's a lot of blowback. And when it's in the wrong hands, when that technology is in the wrong hands and has the wrong responsibility, that's when all shit breaks loose. That's when we get havoc. And that's the potential danger of all this. So, it's no surprise that there's manipulation within nature. There's geoengineering, artificially enduring nature for not really the intent, the original intent of helping us in survive through nature, survive through climate change and whatnot, but could actually do severe harm. So even the New York Times even pointed this out, saying, should we block the sun? Scientists say the time has come to study it. The national academics said the United States must study technologies that would artificially cool the planet by reflecting some of the sunlight, citing the lack of progress fighting global warming. So, again, that idea of geoengineering and interfering in the natural order that we thought maybe 10, 20 years ago was some sort of conspiracy, tinfoil hat, made up kook thing is now not at all far-fetched to see where science has gone to in weather manipulation, into artificially stenting against nature. And here's another example from a CBS clip of their morning show, showing a scientist saying that we need to put harsh chemicals into the atmosphere to prevent global warming, that we need to pollute the planet more to stop climate change. And I thought, I was a big, proponent of climate change. I don't know if I still am. I'm still having doubts and I'm kind of on the fence of things. But I always thought that it was the pollutants itself that was causing the worst for the climate. That us polluting the atmosphere was what caused all this. And now they're saying that they're using pollutants to stop climate change caused by pollutants. So here's this scientist saying on CBS how we need to put chemicals into the atmosphere to prevent the catastrophic damages caused by natural disasters.
What exactly is solar geoengineering?
A set of proposed technologies to rapidly cool the Earth by reflecting sunlight back into space.
The idea is based on the cooling effect of volcanic eruptions. When Mount Pinatubo in the Philippines erupted in 1991, it spewed 20 million tons of sulfur dioxide into the sky. That reflected so much sunlight, global temperatures dropped by an entire degree the following year.
So one notion is that we could mimic those volcanic eruptions by sending specially equipped airplanes into the stratosphere to do exactly the same thing.
The U.S. government is now flying high-altitude planes through the stratosphere to study what sun-blocking gases may already be there. Microsoft founder Bill Gates backed a major project at Harvard using balloons to deploy aerosols, but tests were put on hold after some pushback. And while it may seem far-fetched, a recent United Nations report seriously considers using giant space mirrors to deflect sunlight, while other scientists propose mining moon dust and launching it at the sun. At the Palo Alto Research Center in Silicon Valley, this white tent is a makeshift lab for experiments with something called marine cloud brightening.
This will generate the plume that will contain the aerosols.
It injects salt water into clouds over the ocean.
The idea is you'll make the clouds a little brighter, and that will reflect more sunlight back up into the atmosphere?
Exactly. That's the idea.
Those effects could be beneficial or they could be negative.
Kelly Wanzer runs Silver Linings, an organization advocating for research into climate interventions like cloud brightening. But she says we need to quickly curb our planet-warming fossil fuel emissions because dimming the sun isn't a long-term solution. It's a sign of desperation.
This would not be the first choice.
No, or third or fourth choice. You have to compare it to overloading the system with warming and the environmental system starting to break down, which is where we're sitting on the edge of.
This is something that might provide some cooling and buy us some time to rapidly shift away from fossil fuels.
That's right. But there are a lot of things that we don't know. How does the climate system respond if you do that over a long period of time?
If it all sounds like science fiction, well, it was.
18 years I've hated a train.
The 2013 film Snowpiercer depicted geoengineering gone awry, turning the planet into a dystopian snow globe and confining humanity to a high-speed train. Climate scientists are divided on geoengineering. In dueling public letters, one side calls for accelerated research, while the other wants it banned, warning the possible deployment of solar geoengineering by individual nations would be frightening and inequitable.
Makes you really rethink your past arguments about chemtrails being real or not. This is them warning on mainstream media that, hey, we're already funding projects of sending potential poisons into the atmosphere to reflect sunlight. That's their potential goal. But again, as someone that is still kind of on the fence on what climate change is and what it affects it tolls, that we're putting potential poisons that we were to believe that is causing this catastrophic damage and releasing it more into the atmosphere to try to prevent it. So, methinks that there's something more to the story than just reducing our emissions. Methinks that there's a little more to the story than scolding people for taking their gas-guzzling car to their workplace and having to trying to afford a barrel of oil, a barrel of gas to pay for their transit, or buy an extensive electric vehicle that they know is not going to work and is going to break down in front of them. Putting the blame on the ordinary citizen while this is going on. It's just, it kind of, you raise eyebrows, you start getting concerns. Here's even back, this is 2017, so even back then, this was 2017, a geoengineer, David Keith, speaks with Stephen Colbert about spraying sulfuric acid from planes. So this is them admitting on mainstream television, even Stephen Colbert, and I'm sure Stephen Colbert, probably Colbert Report, so this is him playing the character, so it's not as bad. This is them announcing that, hey, we did have chemtrails. We did have the potential to put harmful toxins into the atmosphere to try to prevent climate change that we kind of already constructed and engineered the worst for the climate, the worst for nature. We're doing geoengineering to manifest against nature. So here's what this guy had to say.
You could actually spray sulfuric acid in the stratosphere 20 kilometers over our head and use that to stop the planet warming up in a ugly tech fix.
You could spray something into the atmosphere to change.
Spray pollution into the atmosphere to stop it warming.
How do you do this?
You'd start with a fleet.
Spray pollutions to prevent pollutions causing climate change. Again, do you see how nowadays people that thought about being environmentalists, how they see that this is an agenda going the opposite direction? Do you see why I'm skeptical of people like Bill Gates and Al Gore and Davos and Greta Thunberg, and noticing that they are not the solution when it comes to the climate, when it comes to nature? That how we're demonizing farmers is actually more against the environment has actually done more catastrophic damages to society than we're trying to prevent it. Do you see how this is all retaliating against you?
Of modified business jet and say 20,000 tons of sulfuric acid into the stratosphere every year. And each year you have to put a little more. And this doesn't, in the long run, mean that you can forget about cutting emissions. We will need to rein in
No,
emissions.
we'll get to it eventually. So in the meantime, we're shrouding the earth in sulfuric acid.
So people are terrified about talking about this because they're scared that it will prevent us cutting emissions.
Right, and also that it's sulfuric acid.
We put 50 million tons of sulfuric acid in the air now as pollution, and it kills 1 million people a year worldwide.
Okay, but it'll be better if we put more in.
We're talking about 1% of that.
1% more, we're just killing 10,000 more people.
You can do math.
What happens to the sulfuric acid after it's sprayed? Does it just stay up there?
No, it rains down, but it's a tiny addition to what we're already doing.
Is there any possible way this could come back to bite us in the end?
It actually turns out to be an old idea. This was known since President Johnson.
You ever look at those planes up there? They have contrails behind them. Maybe all those planes with the contrails, maybe they're actually spraying chemicals into the atmosphere right now, and Uncle Sam isn't telling us.
It seems extremely unlikely.
That the United States is not telling something to its citizens? That seems extremely likely to me. Read the newspaper. I think they might have your idea already.
Wow. And that was Stephen Colbert, the character from the Colbert Reports, who was actually genuine on pointing out the flaws of this. The current Stephen Colbert would not do this. Current Stephen Colbert would try to manipulate and say how great this is, and it's worth for the benefit. And let's do a vaccine dance. Yay! At least that Stephen Colbert had a bit of bite, a bit of aggression towards the fact that you were just blatantly told, hey, we're throwing the worst chemicals out there that could potentially kill you. But it's okay, because it's going to cool down the planet. But sulfuric acid, it will kill you. Just tiny bit. Everyone needs a bit of killing towards one another. Everyone needs to breathe in some harmful chemicals, right? Can't all have clean air. That's just too much. And I love how they add the quote from George Orwell saying, the true genius in advertising is to sell you the solution and the problem. Which is why things like pharmaceuticals and fossil fuel industries and the war machine and now apparently the green machine are the best advertisers in all of history, because they could easily create a problem, create a business to solve that problem, and then sell you the idea of the problem solver. That is their entire market. That is their entire business model. And anyone that contricts to that, anyone that goes against that, has to be silenced out and has to be censored out and has to be let go away from society, even though it's that obvious to people. It's that obvious. Even when that guy says, it's unlikely that, all the planes out there that are spraying these chemicals. No, they're not actually spraying the chemicals now. That seems so unlikely, but we want to put sulfuric acid into the air. That's potentially dangerous to ingest, but it's okay because we're already partly dead inside. So having rest of humanity kill themselves a little bit is not too bad. You're doing it for the greater good. That is amazing. That is amazing, folks. And like I said, it's been an eye-opening experience, with COVID and everything between, and now to this, I consider myself an environmentalist. I consider myself being part of nature. I want to preserve nature. I want, the benefit to, help one another and provide for future generations to enjoy this planet. I understand. I don't want pollutions. I want clean air, clean water. That is the, foundation, the building blocks of human life and all life on Earth, really. But I just don't see the solution coming from billionaires and philanthropists in the science community that are advancing a problem to solve that problem. I feel like there's a bit of a corruption scandal. There's a bit more understanding to this, how they're manipulating people. And the fact that they're demonizing farmers, which is the oldest occupation on planet Earth that is so in touch with nature, they're demonizing them for hurting the planet, made me really, really skeptical of the whole notion. And that is where this stuff comes in. Like I said, makes you rethink the past arguments where you thought, chemtrails was just an Alex Jones tinfoil hat, jokester comedy routine. Now it's, just blurting out in the open. Hey, we're doing this for your own good.